Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of our Town Hall video series hosted by Certified PA Consulting. I'm Casey D'Amato. For those of you who don't know me, I am president of Certified PA Consulting. We are a consulting agency that's been around since 2009. We help PAs and NPs navigate everything from salary negotiations to career changes to starting a practice or starting a business. And everything in between. So, all the professional resources and things that we're not really taught in PA school. And our team is a collective panel of expert PAs that have varying experience in different elements of management, senior management in practice or other business ventures, certified life coaches, depending on who it is on our team. And we help other PAs and NPs navigate their career paths to find the right fit for them. So whether that is guidance with your salary negotiations or determining if it's time for an exit, whether if that is making a change, a career change, maybe to something non-clinical, maybe MSL or things like that, or maybe it's starting your own practice or starting your own business, and everything in between. So today we're talking about business. We're here with Catherine Warner, who is our senior consultant and our resident expert in starting a PA practice. So Catherine has her own practice. She is a PA and owns her own practice. She's owned one for many years now. She's very successful, and she teaches other PAs how to start a practice from scratch, completely from scratch. And she helps people one-on-one coaching as well as in a group program called Practice Building Blueprint, which is a fantastic program. It's 4 months long, and it helps PAs actually get up and running in a matter of those 4 months and seeing patients already. It's really, really cool. So most people think that they have to go down this path alone or figure it all out themselves, and you don't. And it's not that hard once you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be much harder, much longer, much more tedious, much more expensive process. If you do know what you're doing and you have a framework to follow from somebody who's done it and been successful at it, like Catherine, it can really help propel you if you are interested in becoming a PA practice owner. So we host a series of videos around business and we share them on these town hall series. We also host an FAQ session once a month that you can come live and you can ask questions. If you're just thinking about it, your early stage, if you're ready to open a practice, if you're ready to open your own medical practice, then we offer services so you can work one-on-one with Catherine or with our program. So today we're talking about how do you know if now, if this year is the year, if this is finally the time that you should step into your vision, your entrepreneurial vision about being a practice owner. How do you know when the right time is? Because it's easy to be interested and then, you never quite get around to doing it. It's a little scary. It's kind of intimidating. You're not sure. The easier road, of course, is to stay working as an employee. And it's a great path. Our road as a clinician working as an employee is a fantastic path. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But if you have that gnawing inside of you that, like, what if I could own my own practice? What would this look like? And you know that in your core, you're kind of meant to be your own boss and to have your own practice. How do you know if you should take action now, this calendar year, and make it happen versus wait till next year, wait for 5 years? What are some key points, Catherine, that you get asked or that you see with people that both prolong and procrastinate when they want to get started, or maybe they're starting early? Like, how do you know when the timing is right to actually take that step and start your practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest point is going to be that there's no right time. And just in general, I mean, and we'll talk about some things that I think are super helpful, but there's never going to be a perfect time to start a practice. We all have stuff going on. There's never enough time in the day. So I think just kind of getting that into your head and saying, okay, well, is this a right enough time? Is this a feasible time? It's maybe a different way to ask that question. Like, is it a feasible time? And so I think, being clinically competent is obviously our first step. So we've got to just make sure that clinically you're solid and ready to go. The second thing I think is super important to knowing, like, okay, we've assumed you're clinically competent. Like, is this, and you're going to start a practice at some point, is this moment in time the right time? Some things, the first thing I think you really need is 3 to 5 hours a week. So most of us want to wait until life is easy peasy, nice and calm, and we've got all the focus in the world. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
that's never going to happen for me. That's just not, and I don't think that happens for most entrepreneurial type people because we've always got something going on. So, if you can make, not even you already have it, but if you can make 3 to 5 hours a week, you can really make some good progress if you're focused and know what you're doing. But, if you really and truly don't have 3 to 5 hours a week and cannot find 3 to 5 hours a week, if you can't hire a cleaner or get some childcare or restructure something to get 3 to 5 hours a week, then I would say, you probably could squeak it out an hour a week here and there, but it's going to take forever and it's going to be super frustrating. But with 3 to 5 hours a week, you can make some good, solid progress. When I started my practice, I had a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a part-time job, and a husband that was deployed, and it was pretty close to the pandemic right when we opened. So, you don't need a ton of time, but you do need some dedicated time to work on it. And so I think that's super important. I think financial considerations, we need to take that into account. Like, yes, your practice more than likely will be financially successful at some point if you do the right things, right? Like, we're in a pretty high demand field. However, I think, it would be a little scammy and not super responsible to say, well, you don't need to worry about money. Your practices. No, you definitely need to have some financial plan. I'm not saying we need, huge stockpiles or anything, but you need to be financially in a position or have a plan, because there is going to be some investment in starting a practice. We really can work, especially now with virtual medicine and the technology that's coming out, we can really work on a very low budget. But there is going to be some expenditure in starting your practice. And then also in those first couple of months, where you have these expenses for supervising physicians, for malpractice, and you're not having a lot of income. The Small Business Association says 2 years for profit in a new business. I like to think we can do better than that as medical providers, because we're in demand and the overhead's not that, we're not selling a product. But I mean, I think 2 years for like a good, healthy income is probably pretty realistic. So we need to have some kind of financial plan, whether that's part-time work, a current job, or PRN shifts while we're doing this. But it's a full-time job and you've got one day a week you can really dedicate to seeing patients. Or maybe you're going to take out a loan and really dive in. That's a very valid option, but I just, want to make sure that there's some kind of financial plan in there that makes sense for your family and your life, right? So I think that's kind of the second main point. And then above and beyond that, I think having that desire to start the practice. If you're asking the question, is now the right time to start a practice? It makes me think you've already decided that at some point you're going to. So, having that excitement and the desire, and then, putting it into action can really be done at any point. There's really no reason to wait much longer, because we can work with pretty small amounts of time and we can work with pretty small amounts of money. So, regardless of, all the other things going on, if you really want to, in this moment, we usually can make it work, right? With the time and finances that you've got available. Now, I mean, there are definitely some things I would say are like, okay, you want to stop if you're in these situations, right? So if you're in a situation where you've got like a really locked down non-compete clause, that's not prohibitive, but you at least want to consider it and plan around it. For me, it was, non-compete clauses in the state where I live are not really enforceable. However, the practice that I was working for was huge, and I don't want to get on their bad side. So I started in a different state, got up, got running, waited out that non-compete, and then was ready to go and hit the ground running strong when I was out of kind of the place where they could get frustrated over it. So that would be something to think about and just consider, and again, make a plan around. If you're in a major life transition, you're getting married, you're getting divorced, you're having a kid, your husband's deploying. Again, started my practice in all the life transitions, and it worked out fine. But it's just something you want to consider. Is this where you want to put your time and your effort during this life transition? It may be that life transition is the perfect opportunity. If you have the new kid at home and you've decided, hey, I'm going to stay home with my kid, like, hey, you've got a little wiggle room. Like, yes, kids take a ton of time, but it may be that because you stopped working a full-time job to focus on the kid, You can hire a babysitter or put them in Mother's Day out or work while they're napping if they're still little enough to nap, like you can work around those. But I would definitely consider if that's what you want to do, because we don't want to divide our time so much that we can't start our practice well. So those are just kind of the things that I would consider in that decision of whether it's the right time to start a practice.
Totally. And one thing I wanted to clarify, because I realized I didn't clarify at the beginning, as you were talking through that, I didn't clarify for everybody that your practice is telemedicine.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
some of the perspective that you're saying, although you do coach people both with telemedicine and with physical practices, both.
Yeah.
So, but just if someone's listening and they're like, "Wait, I'm thinking about opening up a physical location in another state, that would be a big commute."
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
so just to put in perspective,
Yes.
Catherine's practice is telemedicine. So sometimes when she speaks off the cuff, it's referencing her own experience, but she does help people both with physical locations as well as remote telemedicine. And same thing with the stay at home and childcare. Obviously, that applies for telemedicine, not so much for the physical
Right.
location. So I just wanted to clarify that because we might have some people listening going like, wait, what? I don't get that. So with telemedicine, there is some differences with the physical practice,
Yeah.
pros and cons of both. Pros and cons of both. One thing I wanted to elaborate on a little bit more when you're thinking about is now the right time, and you were talking about the financial part of it and the profitability, definitely considering telemedicine and physical location because the time period and the profitability, if you're thinking about it, is now the time. Physical location, you have a lot more upfront startup costs, and there are some ways to mitigate that, subletting space and things like that at the beginning. But in some circumstances, it's not appropriate or applicable, and you're just going all in with your physical space. You need equipment and all the things. So when you're thinking about is now the time, make sure that you have your business model mapped out a bit, at least napkin math, rough math, because your profitability will be quite a bit different in telemedicine than a physical location. And both are scalable, meaning you can hire other providers and you can hire a team and you can build both. Either way, it doesn't matter if it's telemedicine or if it's a physical location. But obviously, your expenses are going to be and your overhead are going to be a bit higher. Doesn't mean that that's a problem. Obviously, we see lots of practices out there, whether they're owned by MDs, PAs, or NPs, that are quite profitable and do very well in a physical location. But in thinking about is now the right time, those physical locations will require more upfront cash or loan, significantly more of a loan, things like that. So, you will have that a little bit of that debt of impacting your profitability for a period of time in a physical location, different than telemedicine, which you have much lower overhead costs in telemedicine. It's not right for every industry, but in every specialty, but it obviously has lower overhead and, it faster to get up and running for sure.
And we've even worked with people who their ultimate goal is to have a physical location, but we went ahead and got them started with telemedicine because we can go ahead and start with such a
Yep.
reduced, entry cost, and then they're able to get up, get their profits going, and then transition into a physical space or needing more supply, buying those more expensive supplies or things like that. We've also have collaborated with people doing in-home medicine, where they travel to the patient's home. So there's lots of ways to get really creative, even if in person, like having a physical space is your ideal setting. We may want to drop that barrier down a little bit so that you feel comfortable and can get going and then work up to that bigger dream ideal scenario. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of different ways to be creative about it and make it work.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because for those of you who are listening or interested in learning more, or you just see like this is triggering a whole bunch of questions for you, you can schedule a private consultation with Catherine to sit down and talk with her because she can get creative, just like she was just mentioning. She can get creative about a sort of a short term and longer term and kind of build into it. You don't have to go all in all at once necessarily. In some cases, that is the best path, but in not every case. So there's lots of different creative solutions to get your practice up and running. So Catherine offers one-on-one services as well as a 4-month program called Practice Building Blueprint. And if you're still just kind of learning about this initially, you're still like, I don't know if I'm ready to talk to Catherine deep dive, but I'm still very curious about practice ownership. We do have a free webinar called Your Guide to PA Practice Ownership on our website at certifiedpaconsulting.com. My blinds are blowing in the breeze here. It's making so check that out at certifiedpaconsulting.com and you can Watch that webinar. It's totally free. It's about 45 minutes to an hour. I think it's about an hour actually. Yeah, that's totally free and it answers a lot of common questions. But if you're really about ready and you are wondering if now is the time and you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't realize like I could do this maybe in a sequential order. Maybe I don't have to go all in at once. Those are the kind of questions to talk to Catherine about. So she can help you get creative, help look at your model, help look at your marketing plan, all the things, talk about how long it takes to get insurance credentialing, if you're going to go through insurance, all of that. So schedule a one-on-one with her so that she can, talk through your launch plan, if you will, to get up and running. If you're really thinking that now is the time, this is the year, because there's no time like the present, right? Like why keep putting it off? So, reach out, go to our website or just reach out team at Certified PA Consulting, and you'll get Katie from our team that can help point you in the right direction, whether it's the free webinar or scheduling a consultation with Catherine, or maybe jumping right into Practice Building Blueprint, 4-month program, which is fantastic for people to get up and running just in a matter of months. So check out all of our resources. We'd love to work with you. We love PA entrepreneurs. Obviously, we are PA entrepreneurs ourselves, so we are big supporters, and we're here for any questions that you may have. So on that note, we'll sign off, and we will look forward to seeing you all on our next Town Hall video series. All right, bye.